Welcome back to the study in the old rectory at Epworth. My name is Guy Lewis and today I'll present the final session on general data protection regulation. This session will cover data security, governance, accountability, PECR, Information Commissioner's Office, ICO, and the next steps you can take. Looking at security, we need to look at 4 areas: secure passwords, boundary firewalls and internet gateways, malware protection, and patch management. Cyber Essentials is a self-certificated qualification, whereas the Cyber Essentials Plus, you bring an external assessor. So on passwords, we must use secure passwords. We must create and use secure passwords. They must be strong, i.e. in terms of length, so that they're 8, 10, 12 characters. They must be unique, so one password for one login for one site, and they must be memorable. If you find having that sort of unique, strong, unique and memorable password and making them up, actually what you can use now is password managers. These are a technology where you have one very, very strong password which you use all the time to let you into the password manager, which contains all the other passwords you need. These passwords can be used on laptops, computers, tablets and phones. So again, part of security, we talked about boundary firewalls and internet gateways. These are routers and computers. So every router, every router that you have, the broadband, the connection you have between your business and the outside world through a phone line or through a fibre goes through a router. And also most computers, anything running any sort of operating software, will have a firewall in it as well. So naturally you have firewalls in both your site and your computers. What you can do though as part of that security is ensure that you've got a guest Wi-Fi. So I would suggest you look on YouTube as how do I create a guest Wi-Fi in my router, so that if you're in your business, in your bed and breakfast or hotel, actually what you've got is a guest Wi-Fi area which is secure, and that the main Wi-Fi unit is your business Wi-Fi with much stronger security. You must protect your computers with up-to-date antivirus software, and you must ensure that they're all up to date with any software updates. So when we talked about patch management, that's what it is you will be informed through the internet onto your computer that you've got an upgrade, and actually as part of GDPR, as part of that security, the onus is on you to install them software updates. In terms of accountability and governance, GDPR includes a provision that promote accountability and governance, so that your data is protected by design. So almost you design a process that minimises any form of data breach. That might be where, as an example, we talked about having a payroll external to the business. Emailing information actually has by design a possibility of sending it to the wrong person, whereas actually sharing some form of space through a cloud-enabled storage system like Dropbox or OneDrive is actually by design a much safer system. But you can go through a point where you make some assessments about where some of your processes are actually not quite as safe as they could be. So what you're trying to do is minimize the risk of breaches, which actually then makes you sort of more in compliance with the GDPR or general data protection regulation. Practically, this is usually around defining policies and procedures within the organisation. So what is a data protection impact assessment, a DPIA? That is actually where you're assessing where do you think you are likely to have a breach, and actually what do you think the impact of that breach is. So what you're asking to do is to make sure that your system has an assessment to it that says actually what I do is safe and actually can keep that data safe, and that it will meet the sort of the expectations you would expect if that was your data. So at the start of this video, I was talking about the PECR, which is the Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulation. This was brought in between the sort of GDPR regulation and the earlier Data Protection Act. And it was response for more information being sent out through SMS, text, and the early point of emails. So what you must not do as far as PCR is you must not send marketing emails or text to individuals without specific consent. However, there's a limited expectation from your previous customers, often called that soft opt-in. So a previous customer, someone you've had conversation with, you've had communication with, then actually there's that soft opt-in that enables you to send marketing emails or text because they're probably interested in your product. However, that's the sort of business to consumer. If it's business to business, if you want to send emails or text to companies, there's no PECR regulations that's allowed, but it is good practice to put, do not email, do not text me in the body so that they can actually send back and object to you being in contact with them. So the PCR soft opt-in for existing customers that gave you your details and did not opt out of any marketing messages. So if you've already had them, if you've already have their details, and actually they didn't opt out of any marketing messages, you can still, using that PCR soft opt-in, send information to your potential clients. But you must have given them a chance to opt out, and you must have actually contacted them before the GDPR legislation came in. Again, as part of this, you should always be looking at giving them the option to not receive any further information from you. It doesn't apply to new customers, and it doesn't apply to bought-in lists. So if you're actually buying a listing out, you actually start off by actually asking somebody to opt out if they want to opt out of your messaging. You may have heard that there is a requirement to have a data protection officer. However, you don't need a DPO, a data protection officer, if you're a private company and you seldom involve monitoring data subjects, and actually you don't do an awful lot of processing. So and as that is a special category, it's more than likely that within this sector, the businesses that we are involved with now, actually you don't need a DPO. So if you have no requirement for a DPO, a data protection officer, you must appoint someone to take responsibility for proactively complying to GDPR. You must still comply to GDPR, but you also must make sure that that person that you've identified has the necessary skills and training to meet the obligations of the company and into the GDPR regulation. One of the things I want to talk to you is about the Information Commissioner's Office, or the ICO, and the recommendations that if you are actually holding data on your clients, that you actually join the ICO. And there are various different tiers of annual fee, from £40 a year up through to, I think it's £60 a year, and for large businesses up to £2,900 a year. But this depends on whether you're a small and medium-sized firm or you're not doing an awful lot of processing. Actually, the small firm, medium-sized firm, under 250 employees and turnover less than £50 million per annum. So I say the fees are £40 if you're a tier 1, and £60 if you're a tier 2, and if you're a bigger company, the tier 3, that could be up to £2,009 a year. You would go to the ICO site to find out what your fee would be. So what are your next steps? Well, the first one is to carry out an audit of the current data you're holding. So look at the things that you're, whether it's a contact list in Outlook, whether it's an Excel sheet, but find out what data is held on your customers, your suppliers and your employees. So if you can find all that data first, and then remove the ones that are no longer required. If there's customers there that you've not seen for 4, 5, 6 years and you don't think you're going to see them, then get rid of their data. The thing with GDPR is if there are any issues, you've actually got to look at all the data you're holding. So the less that is, the easier it is for you. So remove it if it's not required. If you've got suppliers you don't use, employers that have left you, get rid of their data. And then the data you have left, notify them of your privacy policy. So tell them that you're actually storing their data. Tell them what data you're storing. Tell them why you're storing it. And tell them when you're going to delete it. The next thing is if you do need a Dpo, appoint one. But if you don't, then identify someone who is their point of responsibility. I would also recommend that you join the ICO. It is a font of lots of information. And that information, along with anything from these videos, can be used as training for the rest of your staff and employees. So a link to the ICO, www.ico.org.uk. There's a lot more information about GDPR on there that may help you. So that's the final session on GDPR. I hope you found the session interesting and useful.